This is Bad Movies We Love, part of the Scheist Podcast Network.
Hello, Bad Movie Lovers. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Bad Movies We Love. I am your host, Nick Scheist.
The master of this stupid stuff!
And whether you're with me for the first time or if you've been with me for a long time...
If you're listening to this, you are the resistance.
That's right. And you can help out the cause by taking the new listener survey. I want to hear from you about what you like, what you don't like, so I can continue to make the show as good as possible for you. The link for the survey is up in the show notes, and it's completely anonymous. If you don't want to be anonymous, you can email me directly at badmovieswelove@thescheist.com. Another great way to help the cause is by leaving a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. It may seem unimportant, but it's the best way for other people to find the show and to give it a chance, and it really helps out independent podcasts like this one. As an added bonus, I'm going to do a giveaway. For everyone who leaves a review between now and the end of September, you will be entered to win a $50 gift card to a movie outlet of your choice. Whether you want that to go towards physical media like Criterion, Arrow, Vinegar Syndrome, whichever, or if you want a gift card to a theater chain of your choice so you can see something on the big screen, all you have to do is leave a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts and you will be put on the Wheel of Destiny. Then I'll spin that wheel and announce the winner on the final episode of Schwartztember. It's Labor Day, so it's still kind of endless summer. And we're bringing the month to a close with the first part of an impromptu doubleheader as my wife Christen joined me on the show once again to talk about Steven Spielberg's Peter Pan fantasy epic, Hook, from 1991. I want to walk around that set and play on that set.
There were pretty significant adult themes underlying that I picked up on now that I didn't when we first watched it as kids.
He wants to kill, like, the version of Peter Pan that he remembers, right? He's actually sad for Peter that he has become this sort of just, like, out-of-shape lawyer.
I feel like this movie now would not be PG.
Well, we can't have Peter Pan be, like, as hairy as Robin Williams actually is.
It doesn't look like he's working hard to make a joke land. It's just so natural for him.
Is that Phil Collins?
I give you the steel-handed stingray, Captain James Howe! Greatly the men favour you, sir.
The puling spawn, how I despise them.
Go get them, Captain!
Yes.
We're recording. Welcome back.
Thank you.
It's been...
Almost a year.
Almost a year? I have no idea when we did the Stick It episode.
I think it was like September last year because you still said fiance, so I know it was pre-wedding.
Well, yeah. So probably close to a year. Maybe it was like last summer. I don't remember 100%. I'm not going to look it up either. So...
Moving right along.
Yeah, moving right along. It's not your first time on the show. Do you want to tell the audience anything about yourself for the people that maybe didn't listen to the Stick It episode?
No. Not anything different, I guess, in particular. We're married now.
That's right. You're my wife now.
That's right. It's official.
It's official. That's right. Today, we're talking about Hook from 1991. This is directed by Steven Spielberg himself, screenplay by James V. Hart, and Malia, Scotch, Marmo. The screen story by Hart and Nick Castle, based on the play and the books by J.M. Barrie. And, I know I invited you on the show to talk about this movie, and you said, yeah, I love Hook. And I think the reason that it popped into my head was maybe at the start of this month or in preparation for the Endless Summer series, we had gone to the Pantages and seen the stage production of Peter Pan, and that made me want to watch Hook. And then I started thinking, these are kids that run away and don't want to grow up, so they want to have essentially an endless summer. So I felt like it was a good choice for this month, and having watched it, I feel that is still appropriate, but I think it's beneficial to have seen the stage performance fairly recently as well, because it gives a little bit more context for where Hook was sort of drawing inspiration from. And I don't know when the musical first started, but I imagine that it started before 1991.
I believe so. I think it's one of the originals in that kind of story genre, but I can't remember when it started. I know this was the second time I'd seen it, so it's been, at least 10 years. So I think it's been running for quite some time. It's not quite the longest running, I think Lion King holds that spot, but I think it's been around for quite some time. And they do a great job with it on the stage production.
Well, I just looked it up, and the first performance was October 20th of 1954. So yeah, just a few years before Hook.
Wow. That's shocking.
It is quite a long time. I mean, that makes this the 70th anniversary run of the show. But the way that the stage design is set up for the musical, I don't know what it used to look like in the 50s, but what we saw was probably influenced by Hook a little bit too, because Hook existed for 30 years since 1991-ish. And the stage production, I'm sure, has looked at other Peter Pan properties and pulled from that. But I was kind of surprised to see how much the bedroom set design looked like what we saw on stage when we went back and watched the movie. It's pretty close.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's interesting too to see, even just if it had been the 10-year mark for this cycle of the stage production to come through the Pantages, they didn't do a whole lot of adjustments on set, or even the design or the costumes. The only thing that was really tweaked or most obvious were the jokes. So they were a little bit more modernized, but they've kept that same stage look at least since the last time I saw it, which was a while ago.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the interesting things about live theater is that as you continue to rehearse and the show keeps going, there are sort of certain beats in the story, or like you said, certain jokes. Like we saw it in The Lion King too, where some of the jokes are updated to be a little bit more relevant to the time that we're living in, or occasionally the location that the show is playing in as well. So during rehearsal, those things get shaken out. But one of the interesting things about the stage production was how are you going to do set design for Neverland, right? How are you going to make that look and be effective? And I think they really do a solid job of making it seem both like a jungle and also a fantasy world. And I'm a very big proponent of not just practical effects, but set design work. And so watching Hook, I'm like, wow, the set design is amazing. And it's something that probably when I was younger and growing up watching it, just being a fan of Robin Williams and being in the 90s and a kid seeing his work, we're sort of drawn to his charisma. And I'm paying less attention to everything in the background. But as an adult, thinking of the substantial effort that went into building Neverland, I feel sort of, on the one hand, sad that much effort went into it and it's not like at Disneyland. Like, I want to walk around that set and play on that set and like play wiffle ball in that baseball stadium that they have. Like, it's such a great place to hang out that when you're watching the movie, all of that really seeps into the experience without drawing a ton of attention to itself, because it's still a very character and actor driven story. So all of the background elements are sort of just there to supplement it, but to see that, you know, this is Spielberg obviously putting a lot of work into the environment overall, and that part of it really stood out to me a lot more this time. Like, I knew the story beats, I sort of knew a lot of the lines that were coming, so rather than like focusing on what Robin Williams is doing, I'm like looking in the background of like, oh, look over there, and like all the extras they have in this scene, or how did they design this, like the ship, for example, when they're all walking up on the ship. So all of that, all the little things of Hook really stuck with me a lot more this time around. But this is a movie that surprisingly is not as beloved as I thought. And maybe because I grew up as a kid watching Robin Williams in the 90s, it was just very easy to assume that whatever he did was popular, except for the movie Jack, which I knew at the time that I watched it, people did not like. And that's where he plays like a 40-year-old, or he's a 5-year-old, 40-year-old, something like that. He's got some weird genetic disorder that makes him grow into a fully adult Robin Williams while he's in like kindergarten or something. Not quite, but like 5th grade. So he's like hitting on Jennifer Lopez, and it's very strange, but I like that movie too. And I know Lindsay does as well. So she told a story that like she met Robin Williams and she's like, "Oh, I love Jack." And he said, "Bless you, child. You were the only one." So, you know, I feel like just he was such a larger than life presence during our childhood that it was very easy to accept that his stardom just made anything work. And we had recently seen the Miss Doubtfire musical as well, and just made me miss Robin Williams a lot more. And like the anniversary of his death had come and gone fairly recently, and I had shared with you that thread of moments of Robin Williams in film, which I had saved separately from the event of the anniversary of his death. And then when it circled back around, I had shared it again. But it's a moment from Good Will Hunting where the whole scene is improvised, and he's talking about like the real intimacy of a relationship and like what he misses about his wife, and that all of those specific things were all improv. And so like it's coming from a place of someone who, well, was like dealing with a lot of immense internal pain, was not afraid of like communicating love. And I think I didn't realize it as much when he passed as I do now, of like what the loss of Robin Williams means to just the world and like artistry in general. And even in doing the X-Friends podcast with Seth, we were thinking of like casting the cartoon if it were to come to life, and I started thinking like, oh yeah, the version of Robin Williams that was in Good Will Hunting would make an excellent Hank McCoy, because like he's funny and jovial, and he's got the beard, and like he looks the part of like the fuzzy scientist, but at the same time there's moments in that movie where he gets like super intense. And so I was like, he was just a fantastic actor and performer that he could play both sides very well. But, you know, we mostly remember him for his comedy, and yeah, I don't think it's wrong for that. But I mean, I think the dramatic capabilities that he showed throughout his career are also very well articulated. And I feel like I need to go back and watch a lot of stuff from like later in his career, probably post Good Will Hunting era. But it was nice to revisit this and to see him playing Peter Pan. I mean, like the casting alone is kind of crazy. You know, I read that they had to shave his upper body because there's one scene where he's shirtless, and they're like, well, we can't have Peter Pan be like as hairy as Robin Williams actually is.
That makes sense. I think it's interesting too. You were saying a few minutes ago about the Neverland and how it's not incorporated in Disneyland, which is true. Like you could easily have a land that's Neverland, but I think that's why the Peter Pan ride of the kid rides had always been my favorite because I felt like the flying aspect of it, but the design of that ride and what Neverland looks like in the ride is really cool, even though it's 90-second ride or something. But it was always my favorite kids ride because of those elements.
Well, I mean, I haven't been to Disneyland in 20 something years, so I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what the Peter Pan ride is like, or if it still exists, or where it's located in the park, or any of those things. But
we'll change that eventually.
Yeah, I think when we go back, I'll make sure to do that. But I just feel like, I mean, I felt similarly with Waterworld in the sense that the amount of effort that went into building the atoll, like this was months and months of work of people working around the clock before filming even started to build this floating, whatever, a flotilla, whatever they called it. And it was the size of a football stadium. And the fact that like that's just gone now is crazy to me. Like you could still have that in Hawaii as an attraction or like rent out rooms on it. Like I would Airbnb that. I said that in the Waterworld episode. I'm not joking about this. If there was a Waterworld Airbnb, I would 100% pay for that. And I feel the same way about what I see here from Neverland. Like if you could do like a designer sort of vacation where Neverland is functional and operational and you go there, or what they did with like Simpsons Land or something like that at Universal or Super Nintendo World, where you go there and you're just immersed in that environment. There's like pirates walking around and there's like shops and like trinkets and all that and food, and you can watch like a, you know, I don't know, children versus adults baseball game. All that stuff is just super appealing to me, and I'm really glad that we spend most of the movie there because the movie doesn't start there. And I think like a Peter Pan movie probably spends more time there than Hook, because we have to, you know, contextualize that Peter's an adult here. And oddly enough, like the movie's called Hook. Like it's not even mentioned in the title, like Hook versus Peter Pan or Peter Pan as a man or whatever they're going to sell it as. Like it's not even called Captain Hook. It's just called Hook. So it feels like while existing within the Peter Pan identity, it wanted to be more than that. And so you go and you bring in Dustin Hoffman as Hook, who's amazing in this movie. Like, no jokes here. I mean, there's a lot of jokes in the movie, but Dustin Hoffman is fantastic in this movie. And like the subtleties of what he does with this character are so interesting. And I was reading about the kid that plays Rufio, who's not a kid anymore, of course, Dante Bosco. He was like saying that he was very intimidated by Dustin Hoffman because of the method acting, and that Dustin Hoffman, while they were sort of like shooting the movie, was in character as Captain Hook, like antagonizing the kids and like fucking with Bosco because they were rivals in the movie and he wanted that tension on screen. And then he found out that like this kid had watched some of his other films from like the 70s and 80s and was like asking him questions about acting. And so he's like, oh, he's really taking this seriously. So he took him under his wing. And I think, you know, we get the showdown with them and sort of that antagonization between Hook and Rufio being the surrogate rival while Pan is gone, right? It's just Hook and Rufio both sort of feeling the absence of the Peter Pan character in that world is an interesting dynamic, but I still like this movie quite a bit watching it a second time. It's kind of long, so I don't know that I would always throw it on at 2.5 hours. It maybe doesn't need to be that long, but the parts of it that I like, which is mainly like the training and the Neverland stuff, are still great. And if you just drop me into the movie like 20 to 30 minutes in every time, I would probably be okay just watching it through. So it's a movie that, like, if I were cycling through on cable and it was like, oh, Hook's on, put that on. I'm like, oh, we're already in Neverland. Great. I'm down for this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's long, but it's interesting because for 1991, I feel like it's really long. Like the early 90s were about hour and a half movies, 2 hours max maybe. So being past that for kind of a kid movie, but it's obviously very targeted for the adults too, was surprising. But it's fun. It's one of those things where I used to watch it surprisingly over and over again, not realizing how long it was, but that's probably why. But I don't know that I've watched it since I was a kid or since I was younger. So it was a different perspective, still fantastic as an adult, of the little like subtleties that you can pick up on now.
Yeah, I probably hadn't watched it in 30 years. You know, it was probably watching it on cable in the early 90s. I don't think I even went to theaters for this movie. It was probably one that we got on VHS and watched a bunch after the fact. So a huge gap in my watching history. And speaking of huge gaps, it's been a while since you've been on the show, almost a year. A lot's changed since then. We actually do things a little bit differently here.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We do a synopsis haiku for people who maybe have not seen Hook or just want to hear us do a haiku.
Okay. Go for it.
Well, I'm so glad that I prepared one because I did not prepare you for that.
You did not. So.
But you know that I do it because we're married.
That's true. And you know I said it's going to be you doing it on this one.
Okay. So. Peter Pan grew up, but mean old Hook didn't give up. Showdown on the way.
That's good.
It's all right. I mean, I get stuck. It's like a haiku. I don't know if it's not supposed to rhyme, but I feel like I always end up rhyming it, where I should just think about it more like philosophically, more poetically than I actually do. But, you know, we're trying to explain what's going on in the movie. So, yeah, Peter.
That's great.
Yeah, Peter's an adult. Captain Hook still wants to kill him. And that inevitable showdown that we've been waiting for all these years finally does happen.
Yeah. A+.
A+. All right. Well, good. I'm glad that I got good grades on my homework. But this is a movie that has an IMDb score of 6.8. So really, people like it. You know, the fans like it. But it has a Metascore of 52. A Rotten Tomatoes critic score of 29.
What?
Yes, but an audience score of 76. And Letterboxd has it at a 3.4, which would put it at about a 68 out of 100. So it's
interesting.
Yeah, it seems like the people, the users that actually take time to log reviews, have it registered significantly higher than critics. But it also gives us a Bad Movies We Love total score of 58.6. So I typically look for things that are under 70, but I really think 65 and under is where this show starts to really like find the movies that belong here. So anything that's sub 60, I'm like, yeah, that's fine, because if this were a graded assignment, right, a 60 would be a D. So if you're looking at a movie that's a 65, that's still a D, you know, so anything sub C level, I'm like, yeah, that's fine. But a lot of people would look at this movie and say, hey, it's not a bad movie. And I would say, you know what? I agree with you. But the critics have said that it's a bad movie. And so that's good enough for me to give me an excuse to talk about it on the show. But for everybody else, if you had to sort of pin it down, what would be the thing that makes you say, like, oh, this is, in fact, a bad movie?
Me personally, what do I think?
Yeah.
I don't know, because I don't think it is a bad movie. I think it even held up. Like, you know, sometimes when we've gone back and rewatched some of these movies, we're like, oh yeah, this wouldn't make it today. But I'm curious if the scoring ever changes over time, or is that like a snapshot of the reviews when the movie's released?
Well, Metascore typically uses reviews from the time of the release window, whereas Rotten Tomatoes has more modern reviews coming in as well. And then the user scores fluctuate over time. So,
Yeah, I mean, I don't think... Honestly, that's why when you first brought up Hook, I was like, Hook can't qualify as a bad movie we love, because everyone loved it, like you were saying at the time. But I don't know that time range, what it was coming out around. But I mean, even watching it now, I didn't feel like there was any significant moments where I was like, ooh, that wouldn't go over well now, you know, like if it was made now. And I didn't even realize, or I had forgotten until you mentioned it, that it was a Spielberg movie on top of it. So that's even more surprising to me. I actually felt like there were pretty significant adult themes underlying that I picked up on now that I didn't when we first watched it as kids, that I feel like still holds up now and is not like something that, you know, shouldn't be talked about anymore these days. So that's a little surprising to me, and I don't think I could say anything about like this is why it would be bad.
yeah, I think one of Spielberg's like signatures in film is like parents that ignore their kids or have some sort of like strained relationship with their kids. And here we get this Peter Pan character, Peter Panning, who not only has grown up and forgotten about Neverland and forgotten like being a kid, but he doesn't even sort of maintain that playfulness with his own kids. He's very business oriented. He's a lawyer. So he's like the exact opposite of what the Peter Pan character is, you know, because he sort of like fought for the little guy. He was the leader of the Lost Boys fighting against the pirates. And now he's a lawyer that does like corporate mergers and acquisitions. And I think even Wendy teases him when she sees him again. She's like, oh, Peter, you've become a pirate. Right? Because the daughter is like, this is what daddy does. And she's like, oh, interesting to see that Peter actually grew up to be this thing that he hated as a kid.
Yeah, and it kind of ties into part of the Inside Out 2 storyline. At least what resonated with me in watching Robin Williams as Peter Panning before he's back as Peter Pan is, you know, like when you're a kid, you know, and we see it in the Lost Boys too. It's everything is like fun, and I don't want to grow up, and you know, keeping it like your inner child, like your innocence around you being a kid. And the tie though with Peter and Robin Williams that we see in that first opening of his work and anger and just frustration and like stress really of being an adult with kids in this career ties into the Inside Out 2 story of like, yeah, when you grow up, you lose your joy, right? And so I felt like kind of coming full circle, that was interesting to see the connection because Inside Out 2 is very recent, obviously, but that goes to speak to like the themes that we wouldn't have talked about in the 90s happening that is talked about and more, you know, like prevalent now.
Yeah, it's like that's sort of a small sliver of what this movie is. Like it's there, and I think if you recognize it, then you can see it. But then with the movie being almost 2.5 hours long, the majority of the movie is him in Neverland having fun with these kids and sort of remembering what it's like to be a kid and to be Peter Pan without explicitly sort of commenting on his own awareness of like adulthood and changing. It's like he's remembering things and he's enjoying remembering things and he's having fun, but he's not like, oh wow, like me being a lawyer is really affecting me in like this way. It's like he's just starting to connect to like, oh wow, I wasn't a good dad and I need to be a better dad to my son. And like he finally gets to see his son play baseball at Neverland, and he's like, wow, this is great. I, probably should have been doing this in my real life. So I like that element of it. And Robin, of course, is, Robin
Williams.
Exactly. He's a perfect candidate to do this. But let's take a look back at the trailer, and we'll see how this movie was marketed back in 1991.
Okay.
Good morning, Neverland. This episode of Bad Movies We Love is brought to you by Tink's Uncut Fairy Dust, the perfect pick-me-up from your preferred pixie. You can roll it, smoke it, sip it, snort it, or even sprinkle it into your morning coffee. No matter how you take it, it's sure to take you higher than you've ever been before. Fairy dust used to be banned in Neverland, but now that Captain Hook is out of the picture, the markets are back open and they are a-boomin'. You can find Tink's Uncut Fairy Dust at Pockets Apothecary down at Neverland Harbor. Just take a left at the shipyard, continue straight past the ballpark, hang a right at the Croc, and you can't miss it. And as an added bonus, Lost Boys and girls get 25% off. Now that's bangarang. And now, back to the show. That's it. Well, Spielberg gets that top billing. Got the little window latch is shape of a pirate hook.
I know. I love that part.
Kind of seems a little bit like a horror movie.
I know. I was going to say.
The story.
I'm surprised I was allowed to see this.
He's come back to seek his revenge.
Even the music.
Only you can save your children. You must make yourself remember.
Remember what?
Yeah, Maggie was only 50-something when they did this movie, but they aged her up with makeup.
Oh, interesting.
Which is probably why I never knew how old she actually was.
Have
Yeah.
to Crow. Have to save Maggie. Have to save Jack. Okay, he's back. Who?
Let's fly!
Oh my God, where are we going?
To Neverland.
Where?
Oh, wow, Dustin Hoffman got top billing over Robin Williams and Julia Roberts. At least in the trailer. I mean
the movie is Hook.
fair enough.
I hate
So
Peter
good.
Pan.
I also really loved, and I remember loving it at the time, what they did with Julia Roberts as Tink,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the 90s. But rewatching it now, too, I was like, they still did. I mean, it's pretty creative, and she's cute as like a little dinky little fairy.
Yeah, I still feel bad for her. It's something that like
Yeah.
I couldn't quite put my finger on when I was younger, other than I knew that like she sort of loved Peter unconditionally.
Mhm.
I mean, we were 7 when this movie came out, so I probably saw it when I was like 8 or 9. And so I always had like this weird understanding of like, why doesn't Peter love Tinkerbell? And then to like not really understand that like, well, he does have a wife and kids in his actual life, but he doesn't spend much time or effort with them throughout the course of the movie. And then like Tinkerbell really loves him, and obviously it's like a strange relationship, but it is a romantic love on her end, which is expressed very clearly here. And I don't want to like speak ill of Julia Roberts or anything, but reading some of the trivia for this movie was that like she was difficult to work with because basically everything that she did was on green screen. So she didn't really work with anybody else because she was doing just the Tinkerbell fairy stuff. So she's like not involved in the film in the way that everybody else is. And that led to some tension on set with some of that stuff.
Interesting. I mean, I wouldn't blame her. That's kind of isolating
Very much so.
in this huge production, but I just thought it was still like you could see the string that they're pulling at with like you have to believe in fairies or they die kind of a thing was very much, I think, relative to like Santa Claus or like the Easter Bunny or like it's not really about is this an actual object or person or animal. It's just if you believe, then that's enough.
And another cool thing about that sort of believing in fairies thing is there's a scene in this movie where Tinkerbell's like, I think she's faking her own death.
Yeah, it was great, actually.
Yeah, it's very cute. And she's trying to get Peter to bring her back. And she's like, Peter, you got to clap. You got to like clap and you got to mean it. And during the stage show, there is that moment where like they ask the audience to clap in order to revive Tinkerbell. And so I can see that, yeah, this movie definitely sort of watched the stage play, took elements from that, brought it into the film. And of course, like, I mean, it's Spielberg, so he's not going to go into this like blind without having done his due diligence. So I really like that subtle nod. And I don't know that I would have noticed it in the same way had we not just recently seen the stage show, but
yeah, probably
the Peter Pan cartoon was one that I loved also growing up. And I haven't seen that in a long, long time, but that was one of like the formative cartoons when I watched. It was like Little Mermaid was sort of the end. Little Mermaid, Pocahontas. I think Pocahontas was like the last one of the Disney animated films that I watched. But I was like Peter Pan, Sleeping Beauty, Little Mermaid was like late 80s, I think. Peter Pan's earlier than that too, but sort of like that late 80s, 90s cusp was sort of where I left off. So I had seen Peter Pan a lot more than other ones. And also, what is Cinderella is the other one that I'm thinking of. So it's like those were more of the formative ones for me. And so maybe that's why I was just more prone to enjoying this. But I don't think I understood that so much of the reason that I love this movie was Dustin Hoffman. Like I couldn't put words to it until I got a little bit older, and thinking about it before watching it, I thought a lot about him. And I had watched some clips of it when I had chosen Dustin Hoffman for one of the Identify rounds on Twitter. And so I was like watching clips of the movie back. And so that was also spawned on by like, hey, we saw this. We saw the stage show. I know I'm going to be watching Hook for an upcoming recording, so let me just like I'll do Dustin Hoffman and then we'll go from there. And as I was watching clips, I was like, damn, he's so charismatic as Hook, and he's so just like weird and funny, but also like very articulate and real, and all of the things he communicates about sort of like the lack of parenting on Peter's part when he's trying to like take over Peter's kids is all very, very real. And he's doing it in of course a very manipulative way, but a lot of the things that he says to Jack are very true.
Yeah, I mean, I can't picture anyone else being Hook in this, not even just because we've seen it only with Dustin Hoffman, but yeah, just the subtleties of the facial expressions and like the jokes or the humor that's not even intentional. Like it doesn't look like he's working hard to make a joke land. It's just so natural for him. Is also terrifying at the same time, but it's so fantastic with the connection between even his like chemistry with Robin Williams on screen too. Was like, holy cow, they really put this together perfectly, and I could not imagine any of them being replaced essentially.
Even during Dustin Hoffman's introduction as Hook, we get this scene where they're on the ship, and it's actually Steven Spielberg that is in costume as a pirate who is leading the way to the ship with Hook's polished hook on a pillow. And we get, of course, the wonderful John Williams score, that da-da-dun, da-da-dun, dun, dun, dun.
So good.
I mean, it's John Williams. Like, he's never going to do a bad job.
Yeah.
And so the music throughout the movie is fantastic, but I love like the sort of Captain Hook theme in the film. And in that scene, it's like this processional of this hook delivery to him. And they go and they put the hook on his hand, and we get this scene of like the hook being put into place and snapped on, and you get like this weird sort of like neon flash. And that was all done like with one take because they had to use these like special light bulbs in order to create like that flare sequence. So it was just one use only. Like, we don't get a second chance at this. So that whole scene was shot in that one style. And then the actual Captain Hook introduction, you get like Smee out there and he's in front of all the pirates and he's like introducing Captain Hook. Then the music comes back on, and before we actually see his face, the door opens and like you see his hands, and he's got like the hook hand and his regular hand, and he's playing along to the intro music.
Yeah.
Like he's just, and it's so good. He's got so much charisma. And then when he finally walks up and he's like accepting the praise from all of these pirates, he then immediately sort of turns to Smee and was like, Smee, I hate all of them. And so you see the dichotomy very early in the character, and that like he is this incredibly charismatic leader, but he's also super ruthless, and he also really like hates his own people. So it's this thing of like self-loathing that I think feeds into what we get out of the character design, and that like the only thing that he really has in life is this rivalry with Peter Pan, and he's wanted to like end this rivalry for so long, even to the point where in this movie he could kill Peter. Like, he has the opportunity. He knows it's Peter. He knows that Peter is not in shape and ready to fight, and he could have just killed him right there. But he's like, I think he says a lot throughout the movie. He says over and over, he's like, "Oh, that's poor form, right? Or it's bad form." So he's like, in the name of good form, we'll let Peter have 3 days of training, and he negotiates with Tinkerbell. And so like, there's this weird playfulness to the rivalry where it's like, yes, these are life and death stakes, but also we sort of negotiate a little bit, and we all live in this sort of like, not cursed, but sort of this like trapped universe where nobody ages, right? So they have to sort of coexist a little bit peacefully at times, where like he's not trying to attack Tinkerbell in that moment, and she's not trying to attack him. They're literally like negotiating the terms of combat that they're going to use, and I think they settle on 2 or 3 days to train him. So I like that while Hook is obsessed with fighting Peter Pan and killing him, he doesn't want to kill him if Peter isn't like up to the fight. He wants to kill like the version of Peter Pan that he remembers, right? He's actually sad for Peter that he has become this sort of just like out of shape lawyer. You know, he's like, he keeps asking Smee, he's like, who is this? He's like, this isn't Peter Pan. He's like, just fly. He's like, what are you doing? Fly. He's like, he can't understand like what happened to Peter. And so it's an interesting character dynamic, because you have the villain sort of cheering for the hero to go on the hero's journey and become the guy that will end up defeating him. So I really like that angle of it. And of course, like, Dustin Hoffman is just so good that I can't like take my eyes off the screen when he's on it.
Yeah, definitely. Especially his like final act.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, where he gets his wig ripped off and he's like, let me have my dignity.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think let's do some trivia.
Uh-oh. I did not study.
Well, that's fine. The
Okay.
trivia is for the audience.
Oh, okay.
Time for trivia!
Okay, let's see. So question number 1. There is a famous cameo that's hidden in plain sight. There's a couple that is kissing on the bridge as Tinkerbell kidnaps Peter on the way to Neverland. And she's carrying him in like a blanket or something and just like sprinkling fairy dust all over everything as she flies. And the fairy dust drops on some people that are kissing on this bridge, and they begin to float, right? But those two actors are played by some very famous friends of Steven Spielberg. Do you know who they are?
I don't.
It is George Lucas and Carrie Fisher.
No way.
Yeah, so
Interesting.
I don't know why George was there, but Carrie was brought in to help like rewrite some of Tinkerbell's lines. And
Interesting.
yeah, one of the lines that she ended up writing is, I think, one of the more sort of powerful ones. And it's where she's like, I think Tinkerbell's explaining to Peter like her feelings, and she's like, that place between being asleep and being awake where you can't tell if you're dreaming, like that's the place that I'll always love you. And so that was Carrie Fisher that came up with that, because she was brought in for uncredited rewrites on that. So that was pretty cool.
That is cool.
Yeah. All right, question 2.
Okay.
We hear the word bangarang a lot, and I couldn't help myself. I was like, what the hell does bangarang mean? Because they never explained it. They just shout it a lot.
Yeah.
But do you know that that word has an actual origin? Do you know where that origin is from?
Neverland?
No, it's Jamaican.
Really?
Yeah, and it means uproar, disturbance, and disorder.
I mean, that's very fitting then. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, for most of it. But then there's a time where it's like Peter makes, he tells a joke or something, and then you see the kid go bangarang. And so like everything becomes bangarang. And then even I think when Peter uses it later, it's like not appropriate.
Yeah.
I was like, I think you still used it sort of like an old man not understanding slang, which is kind of cool because that's ultimately what he is. But we'll go to the third and final trivia question for the round. Bob Hoskins, who plays Smee in this movie, he reprised his role for what other Peter Pan television property?
No clue.
It is the Neverland miniseries, which I haven't seen. I just read about it. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought they did that, but I didn't remember it being Neverland.
Yeah, I
vaguely remember it happening at the time.
Makes sense, but I think it's like a 2011 series, so
yeah, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I love Bob Hoskins,
and he was great.
He was, yeah. You really put the hands of the movie in the hands of the right people, I think, because with the lesser cast, I don't know if this works. Obviously, with a lesser director, you're not going to get the identity, the footprint of this movie in the same way. But it's interesting to read that Williams and Spielberg sort of became very good friends while making this movie, and it was after Robin Williams' passing that Spielberg decided to watch this movie to remember him, but he said he couldn't finish it because he just couldn't stop crying.
Wow.
So, like, to see that they had become that good of friends over the course of, making the movie, and like that it hit home. Spielberg said, I believe, that he didn't really like think super highly of the movie after he made it, so he hadn't watched it up until Williams's death, and then he rewatched it after he passed, and he was like, I can't make it through. Not because it's bad, but because it's too emotional.
To the gut. Yeah.
So it was very sweet to hear. We had talked about the cameos in the trivia right there, and the most famous, well, I don't even know if it was the most famous. I only found out about it a couple of years ago. But the pirate who I guess was credited as Gutless, it's played by Glenn Close. And this is the pirate who, when Peter believes he's going to be discovered on the ship, it's actually this other pirate who has doubted Captain Hook and gets put in the boo box with the scorpions. And so, yeah, think you just have Glenn Close in like a throwaway role playing a bearded pirate. I mean, it's crazy the kind of leverage that being a Steven Spielberg has, right? Like to be like, hey, my friends are just coming to hang out, and my friends that are doing guest spots on the movie just happen to be George Lucas and Carrie Fisher and Glenn Close, right? I mean, that's kind of wild because you wouldn't expect that from Glenn Close, or I say you wouldn't expect that from like most other like A-list actors to come in and do that kind of small cameo and then get out of there.
Yeah, but that speaks to Spielberg's like weight and presence. Also.
Yeah, exactly. And I also, if I read correctly, Jon Voight came to set with his daughter, Angelina Jolie, who was a 17, 16 at the time. She was young, and she was saying that like she was going to get into acting and stuff. And I forgot which person she interacted with, if it was Dustin Hoffman or Robin Williams, but thinking that like, well, she's got a tough road cut out for her because she was like gangly and had braces, and like she didn't look like Angelina Jolie yet. So it was like, okay, well, good luck with the acting career, kid. And yeah.
Look at her now.
Exactly. Phil Collins also has, it's not so much a cameo because he's like the constable that comes in to investigate the kidnapping, but he walks in, I'm like, is that Phil Collins? And while we were watching, I looked it up, I'm like, that is Phil Collins. I didn't know he was in the movie up until this watch. So just kind of cool that he's going to be the police officer in this movie. The only other thing I really got is that the role of Captain Hook was turned down by David Bowie.
What?
Which, oddly enough, as I recorded the episode for Schwartz Timber on End of Days, the role of the devil in that movie was also turned down by David Bowie.
Interesting.
So there's alternate reality cuts of this movie where David Bowie is Captain Hook and also plays the devil opposite Arnold Schwarzenegger, and no offense to Dustin Hoffman and Gabriel Byrne in those roles, but I do wish there was the version of the movie with David Bowie in both of those roles, just for curiosity's sake, you know?
Yeah.
Okay. What we were doing was we were using the trivia to figure out the number of spins we're going to get on the bonus wheel, but I didn't prepare you for any of this.
Nope.
So let's try something else. Alexa, can you roll a dice? 2. There you go. You can do that every time.
Oh, I like that.
She got a 2. So I don't know if that got picked up. It probably got picked up on your microphone, but not mine. So we will go over here to the wheel.
Make sure when you're editing, though, you have your headphones on, or she's going to listen to you every time.
Oh, that's right. I mean, I usually edit with the AirPods or something in now.
Okay.
So okay, don't be alarmed by the sound effects this time of the wheel.
Okay.
Here we go.
Can they hear that on the recording?
No, they cannot. Okay. Okay, so if a new version of this movie were made today, who's a filmmaker that you would want to see make the movie?
I feel like that's very hard given that it's Spielberg doing it.
He's still around.
So I could say I would want him to redo it.
Yeah, I would prefer somebody else.
Okay.
But I understand where you're coming from.
I mean, I would still like to see Spielberg do it again today with the upgrades of everything. But for someone different, I would say probably Michael Gracie, I think the name is, who did Greatest Showman, because I love Greatest Showman, and could probably handle the visuals, the set, the score, making it a production.
Yeah, also at the helm of Rocket Man.
Right.
You and I both enjoyed as well. So I think more than capable with the sort of the color and the music elements. Might have to lean into the stage musical a little bit more than Hook chooses to, but you could make a Hook musical and still have it be pretty fun.
Yeah.
Cool. I like that. All right. Let's see what else the wheel has in store for us. I got to make sure it doesn't choose that question again. It might. I should have removed it and I messed it up. Oh, see, look, it almost landed on that one again. All right. This is a new question that I just added this week. If you could be one character in this movie, who would that be and why?
Like of an already existing character?
Yeah, which character in the movie Hook would you want to be given the opportunity?
I think Tink.
Yeah, I mean, she gets her heart broken, but she does have magic, and she can fly, has pixie dust. She's got a lot of advantages, that's for sure.
Yeah. I think her character is kind of underestimated a little bit. in the overall arching storyline, but she can also have fun with it at the same time, being the fairy and getting to look out for people. And yeah, she does get her heart broken, but she's ultimately kind of a hero in the story, I think, because she helped Peter and encouraged him to get back to Peter Pan.
Yeah. I mean, I think in some ways she's sort of like the heart of the story. Because it's like, even though she has certain feelings for Peter, that's not stopping her from helping him do what he needs to do to win back his kids and his wife and progress the story along.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's not entirely altruistic, but she's her motivations are fairly pure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's got magic, so.
And she can fly. It's
yeah.
cool.
I mean, as much as it wouldn't do me well, but I would choose Hook. Of course I'd be Hook.
Shocker.
Right? I die in the end, but I mean, get to go out in style at least. Because his style's like crazy. Like his outfit, he's wearing, this red Michael Jackson pirate jacket, right? He's got this very, very dark black wig. He's got a curly ass mustache. There's a scene in the movie where he's smoking, but he's smoking double-barreled cigars. He's got like sort of like a cigarette holder, but it's a dual exhaust cigarette holder that funnels into one mouthpiece, and they're both loaded with cigars. And I'm just like, oh my God, like no wonder Hook's teeth are so bad in this movie. I'm sure there's not a lot of flossing going on in Neverland, but yeah, he's just kind of like an egotistical diva, but he gets to have the most fun in the movie too in some ways. So I definitely like Hook. I don't know if I'd want to be him long term, but I don't know. In the short term, yes.
You could get comfortable in that skin for quite some time, I think.
I don't know what that says about me, but I think one of the really fun observations I had with this movie is that even though, Robin Williams is playing the hero, what I found was that this was a vehicle for Robin Williams to be fairly dramatic for a lot of it, while it was Dustin Hoffman that got to be the funny guy. So to see that you take this comedian in Robin Williams and a serious dramatic actor in Dustin Hoffman, and you sort of invert the polarity, and you get to see like how fun Dustin Hoffman can be to just watch when you like let him cut loose. And you get to see how good of an actor Robin Williams is in the beginning, where he's, being a shitty dad and like dealing with the phone call. He like screams at his kids at one point because he's in the middle of like a big business call, and sort of like how dismissive he is of his family. I think, you tap into these reservoirs of talent in both guys that you probably wouldn't have expected so much before this film. So I liked that element of it this time around. And, we also, we see Gwyneth Paltrow play. Oh. She plays the young version of Moira? Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, hey, Gwyneth Paltrow, talk about another, not really cameo, but I guess kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, she's not there for like her namesake at that point. Right. She's there as a young actress,
right?
Just working. So it's crazy to see that like this movie had as much talent as it did. And actually, just so I don't forget it, the kid, Charlie Korsmo, who is his son, Jack, is awesome in this movie. Like, to trust him with some of the lines of dialogue that you trust him with in this movie, it makes the relationship between Jack and his kids what it is. Because it's like the daughter gets to be cute and she gets to like love her dad, even though there's a strained relationship. Like she's still very playful with him, but with Jack, it's like he doesn't go to his baseball game. He screams at him on the airplane. He he leaves him with his watch before he ends up getting kidnapped, but you sort of believe the absence when he's with Hook, and Hook is like, here's your dad's watch, don't you want to smash it? Like, you could tell that Jack does, and he's having fun smashing all the stuff in that store. And really, like, I think for me it was more the particular dialogue choices that you give him throughout the movie, and the way he delivers it, because he has like a breakdown moment of like, his dad didn't save him. He was like, he was right there, and like, he didn't even try to save us. Like, he was so petrified that he didn't even try. And so it really helps fuel this idea that he could be seduced by Captain Hook's whole pageantry of being this pirate lord. And, you know, I think they call him like Master Jack or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he really adds a lot to the movie in a way that maybe a different child actor wouldn't, or maybe couldn't be able to. So I just wanted to make sure that I gave him credit for that, because I did find myself multiple times throughout the film in my notes being like, this kid's really good.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah. Well, and I think to carry the significant parent-child themes too, like, you had to be careful of which kid actor you put in that, because not necessarily all of them could do it, and he did it very, very, very well.
He did. Speaking of the kids, I think one of the scenes that is like the most kid friendly is the food fight scene.
Love it.
Right? I mean, you
Classic.
can't have this movie without the food fight scene, and part of it boils down into this like match of insults between Peter and Rufio, and you still like have a Peter that's fairly reserved, and he doesn't really want to engage in name calling, and he's still sort of like holding on to this idea of his maturity being this thing that they can't take from him, or that it's like so valuable to him he's not willing to compromise it. And you know, they get into the insults, and Rufio's like laying into him, and he's doing it like with interesting like rhyme scheme as well. But like Peter, I think the first thing he says, he calls him like a substitute math teacher, and like you could see that like Rufio's flustered, because he's like, wow, like, he's insulting me by like calling me an adult, basically, right? So they start playing by these different rules, and then before Peter ends up calling like a lewd, crude, rude bag of pre-chewed food, dude. I probably butchered that a little bit, but it's close. Before that, he calls Rufio a nearsighted gynecologist, which I was like, what? I was like, did I just hear that? Because like, there's no way that Rufio knows what that is.
Yeah.
Right? He's one of the Lost Boys. So it's like, in my mind, I'm thinking, did Robin Williams write the jokes for this sort of showdown moment? Because that doesn't seem like something that would be just in the script on its own.
Or was it improv?
Yeah. Like, do you trust Robin Williams to be in this moment? Because even at that time, like, I don't even know if the actor would have known. I mean, he was what, 12, 13 maybe? He might not know what a gynecologist is.
I guess that's maybe the only thing I would say now maybe wouldn't hold up now that we're talking about it. But I was dying inside too, because I'm like, who was that joke for?
It was for me as an adult, is who it was for.
Yeah, because it's like the kids watching this movie would have absolutely no idea. The adults obviously would, and maybe not even all the adults. Like, some men probably wouldn't have necessarily known that reference either. But it was hilarious, because I was like, where is this dig going with a child in Neverland who doesn't understand adult stuff, let alone how would he know what that was in reference to?
Yeah, and then I had to start thinking of like, why is this joke why does Peter believe that this joke is insulting to this kid? He's like, you have to stare at vaginas up close for a living. Like, I just couldn't wrap my head around sort of the dynamics of the joke, but hearing it sort of in context with everything else, I was like, okay, you call him like a substitute math tutor, so it's like you're insulting him by calling him like a working professional, basically. But then like the most heightened example is that one, and I was just like, that's I'd never heard that joke before. I watched this movie a lot, but I obviously heard it, but it never registered as something specific. But then thinking of like a 40-year-old man insulting like a 12-year-old kid and using that as the insult, like that's why I was dying inside.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. It's in line with the adult professional digs in that way, but it's still kind of random at the same time.
It is. And it's like then as that food fight breaks out, it's like we see the sort of transition from Peter being just like an adult to like the power of his imagination, like sort of rejuvenating or rekindling his youthfulness, right? And then from there, like he eventually learns how to fly. And I like that as soon as he learns how to fly, he just starts like embarrassing all the kids. He goes and he like plays basketball with them and dominates them, starts dunking on them. He flies by and like cuts some other kid's pants off. And I'm like, wow. So as soon as he got his powers back, he immediately became a dick. But he's sort of like enjoying it and reestablishing himself as the alpha in that pack. Like that he's showing why he is Peter Pan to all these kids, and it's a lot of fun because it's like you finally get this moment where he's back as Peter Pan, and Rufio approaches him with the sword, and you think it's going to be this confrontation because it's sort of like the tug of war for leadership of the Lost Boys has been going on this whole time. And so when he comes up to him with the sword, you think it's going to be a fight. And he just drops to his knees and hands him the sword and basically says that you are the Pan.
Yeah.
And acknowledges sort of like his rightful place as the number 2, because before that, when he didn't believe that was Peter, he had drawn the line in the sand with that sword saying, I'm the Pan now, so it was this like mantle of leadership that gets passed, and it just makes his death that much more sad when it actually happens, because Rufio is a fun character, then he's kind of like cocky and arrogant, but then we see that like when push comes to shove, like he's willing to acknowledge when he's beaten, but then it's like he still has that rivalry with Hook that's been going this whole time. And so when we finally get that showdown between the two of them, it's like they're equals for a lot of it, and it seems like they're almost in a dance where it's like we've done this before. We fought each other before, and it's just sort of like we'll get into the swordplay of it, but Hook gives him a slick sort of move with his, I think it's called a rapier is the sword that he chose to use in that moment. I could be wrong. Don't sue me.
I won't quote you either.
Yeah, please don't. But he sort of forces a block out of Rufio, and it's like it's all very stylized, and Rufio is comfortable thinking he's just going to block the sword attack and like continue the dance, and Hook quickly changes position, stabs him like right through the chest, and it's like, oh wow, you just killed a child in this PG rated movie. I think you just murdered a child. Yeah, it is PG.
That's shocking.
And it's not even like, oh, he stabbed him in the leg or in the arm or something. It's like, no, he stabbed him in the chest and he's dying now. And so you get Peter like sort of in the mode of like he needs to now avenge his fallen friend. So it's all of a sudden like not the tone shifts, but the stakes are raised, and it's like it's sort of remembering that even in all this playfulness, this is a situation where life and death was always just over the horizon. It's like these are pirates at the end of the day, and it's kind of crazy that Rufio has to die.
Yeah. Especially in a PG. I didn't even realize it was PG. I did remember at one point, I can't remember when it was when we were watching it, where I was like, is this PG-13 or is this PG? Because I feel like this movie now would not be PG.
Yeah, I think like the ratings board would you probably could make it PG now, but you probably have to not kill that kid.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like this movie as it is now.
Rated PG-13 for fantasy violence.
Yeah.
And child murdering.
I mean, it's kind of scary. Like, it's portraying kidnapping.
Yeah.
And very, like, heavy, like I said, adult parent-child relationship trauma themes and undertones. So it's still surprising that it's PG.
Yeah. I mean, Jaws is PG.
What?
Yeah.
That's bizarre.
Yeah, there's boobs in the beginning of Jaws. There's a violent shark attack. There's a lot of blood and scary stuff in Jaws.
Yeah.
It's a horror movie, but it is PG, and it's Spielberg, so
Interesting.
he knows how to whittle it down, I guess.
Apparently.
But you know what's crazy? Probably West Side Story is PG-13, if I had to guess. So, like, to your point about
the time.
Yeah, exactly. The time and the context of the movie. I'm like, yeah, there's someone that gets stabbed and dies in West Side Story, but I think someone gets shot too later in the film. But
yeah, I mean, you're talking about like kind of gang wars a little bit.
I mean, Shark Attack is pretty bad though. But,
I agree. That's what I was saying. Like,
yeah.
There's no way those movies would be PG now.
Not at all. But, you know, leading into that last battle sequence before Rufio dies and we get the Lost Boys sort of preparing, we get these really cool set pieces for how they put their armor on. It's like the armor is just like suspended by spider webs and they just like walk through it and then it just like latches on. So they had to like design something like probably magnetic to make that work. But just really, really cool application of the battle armor in this case. And yeah, it's all like made from wood and twigs and whatever the hell they have lying around, but the way that they suit up to go into battle is really cool. And I don't know if you could get away with this today, but they turn the fat kid into like a wrecking ball. They just like roll him up into a ball and then like turn him into a weapon to like attack the pirates. So it's like it's a running joke throughout the movie about him like being fat and like it's always sort of negative, but then when he is fighting, it's a big positive, and then it's ultimately that kid that Peter entrusts with the mantle of leadership for the Lost Boys while he's gone. So I thought that was a cool moment too, though, like where you take the kid that's heavy set and he's sort of the brunt of the jokes a lot of the time, but not really like a punching bag for the Lost Boys, and then he becomes the leader.
Yeah. I loved that kid in the movie. He was always one of my favorites. And I think also just from an innocent standpoint too, it's like he was just kind of using what he had for himself to defend himself at the same time. And it was, what's the word? I don't know. You can edit this out later, but serendipitous a little bit that Peter passes it off to him.
Yeah. I agree.
Thanks.
Yeah. I sort of feel bad for Hook. I mean, he does get swallowed by like a dead alligator, so I don't know exactly what happens there, but it's like he's sort of just, he's backed himself into a corner where it's like he doesn't have to be this guy that wants to kill Peter. It's like they could sort of coexist and live in peace, but he's like, nope, I want my war. And
vindictive.
He's vindictive, yeah. So, hey, look, this is why I like Captain Hook, all right? This is why I would be him in the movie given the chance. It's like, yeah, I'll go out in a blaze of glory. But yeah, he still tries to like cheat Peter again with tries to like backstab him after he's lost. But he does give Peter his props when he's been beaten. And yeah, so when you get the crocodile that eats him, it's like, you could have been cool and we could have just, figured a way to work this out. It didn't have to kill you, but
it was a very go big or go home moment of how that crocodile or statue or...
Yeah, I don't know. I guess that was the croc, but it's
it must
dead
have been the croc that was dead, but it still gets to kill him and eat him.
Because he bragged about like turning it into a clock tower or something, but it's weird for a guy who hates clocks to have constructed a giant alligator clock in the middle of the town. And then all he does is like he hits its belly or something and then it begins to fall apart. I don't know exactly. Like gas shoots out of it and then the ropes break and then it falls on him. So
it was great.
It was. It's a cool ending. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, Peter goes home. Everything's hunky-dory. He loves his kids. The kids fly back in, crawl into bed, surprise the mom. Peter's there. He brings Toodles, I think his name is. He brings him back his marbles.
His marbles.
And so he's super happy. And then he tells...
Flies off.
No, he does. But then Peter is like, he tells his business partner, he hears the phone ring and he digs it up, tells his business partner like all the crazy adventures he's been on, sounds like a total psychopath. He's like, what do you mean why am I climbing the drain pipe? It's because I ran out of pixie dust. Duh. And we get him sort of reuniting with his family in a way that matters, and it feels right for what the story wants to do.
Yeah. And we still get to see a little bit of the Robin Williams humor.
Yeah, exactly. That's the Robin Williams we're accustomed to there in like the last 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's head on over to Critics Corner. And we'll find out all of the horrid things that the critics had to say about this movie back when it came out in 1991. All right, it's not that bad. We've got a bunch of 40s on the board. We got Newsweek, New York Times, Empire, and Austin Chronicle, all with 40s. Which one do you want?
New York Times.
All right, the Times. Vincent Canby. I know this name. Said, Hook is overwhelmed by a screenplay heavy with complicated exposition by what are, in effect, big, busy, non-singing, non-dancing production numbers and some contemporary cant about rearing children and the high price paid for success. So, yeah, it's not a musical, but you're dinging at points for its production. I think it's like, if I read between the lines, it's like, if you're going to go through all the trouble of making it 2.5 hours and having these big set pieces, you might as well just make it the musical at that point. So, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing the musical, honestly. So, okay.
That's funny because earlier when we were talking about who to put this in someone else's hands to do, I had the thought it feels like a musical without the music.
It does. And I think because we had seen the stage show, it's easier to see like where all that DNA is pulled from. Mm-hmm. And I just don't know if the studio would have backed a full musical version of the movie in 1991.
No, probably not.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, when was Newsies?
80s, I think.
Maybe, yeah, late 80s, early 90s. So, it's possible, but I digress. We move on. We got 2 50s, but Roger Ebert's on the board, so we're always going to read Roger. And Roger says, poignancy, period. Lessons to be learned, period. Speeches to be made, period. Lost marbles to be rediscovered, period. Tears to be shed, period. The conclusion of Hook would be embarrassingly excessive, even for a movie in which something of substance had gone before. So, I'm surprised he gave it 2 out of 4 stars on his scale. Like, I mean, I guess that's something that he technically doesn't like, but I guess all of the sort of the thematic stuff that I enjoy about the movie, he just doesn't. He's like, I'm too old for this. Can't do it.
He probably needs to embrace Neverland the most then.
Maybe. Well, he missed his chance. Sorry, Raj. Don't always agree with him, but I, for the most part, always want to give him the chance to read his reviews on this show. Mm-hmm. And we're going to go to the LA Times, and that is Kenneth Turan. He says, I gave it a 60. For very much like Peter, it has clearly gotten harder for the director to break free of the lure of material things and believe in simple magic. And whatever problems Hook has, there are none that make the film on half of its budget would have cured. So this is, I don't understand that.
That
it's
feels
like
vague. Like, what are you actually trying to say there?
I think what he's trying to say is, like, the pageantry of the movie is too much. Like, it's too long, there's too much Neverland, there's too much set design, there's too much costuming and all that, and I'm just like, shut up.
Yeah.
That's all that stuff is awesome. Yes, you could have made the movie on half the budget, but
why?
Yeah, why?
Yeah, I don't like that one.
Sorry, Ken. You wrong on this one, bro, but he still scored it higher than Ebert. So, while he's just like, it's too much, I'm like, I want to go play around in Neverland.
Right.
But like I said, I love production design.
Yeah, they could have made Tom Sawyer's Island Neverland to play around on.
Yeah, more people probably know who Peter Pan is than Tom Sawyer at this point in history, so.
I don't think it's Tom Sawyer anymore, but still.
Oh, gotcha.
At the time, at least.
Yeah, make it like Lost Boys Treehouse or something like that,
Neverland right there.
Yeah. All right, so we go to Entertainment Weekly, and we got Glebes, Owen Gleberman on the board, gave it a 67. So just into the green. Says Hook is jam-packed with entertainment value, enough to give you your money's worth, and to guarantee, parentheses, in all probability, that Steven Spielberg earns his. Yet something has clouded this director's vision. The problem isn't that Spielberg has lost his gift for fantasy, it's that he no longer seems to know or care about anything else. So it seems like multiple reviews here seem very focused specifically on Spielberg and him making this movie at this time in his career. They're just like, we don't want you doing fantasy stuff like this. And again, I say to that, shut up.
And why? Why not? I mean, of all people,
right?
It should be Spielberg doing this.
I know. Let the man do what he wants.
It's so bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, let me see. I don't know sort of chronologically where this is with other movies in his career, but a quick old click of the buttons will help us out there. So let's see, 1990, let's see, we'll start at 87, Empire of the Sun. That ain't much of a fantasy. That's pretty dark stuff right there. You got Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade in 89, Always in 89, then Hook, Jurassic Park, Schindler's List. Like, come on. Like, Hook is nothing like any of these other, like, big hitters in there. I mean, like, sure, it's a little bit like Indiana Jones, but, like, this is the only sort of fantasy movie of the bunch. I don't think I've seen Always, so maybe that one is a little bit, in the fantasy world. But, oh, no, wait, that's John Goodman. I have seen that movie, but it's been a while. But yeah, I mean, from 87 to 93, or yeah, we'll say 93 is where Schindler's List is. You have a Holocaust picture. You have one of the best science fiction horror films ever made, Hook, and Always. So those are the two. And then you have Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, which is like not a fantasy, but definitely an adventure. And then Empire of the Sun, about like World War II era, if I'm not mistaken. Been a while since I've seen that one too, but it's about like the horrors of war. So I honestly, I really don't know where these criticisms are coming from, because they just seem completely wrong. Like, if you're giving me a 6-year stretch and Hook is the one fantasy movie in that 6-year stretch, even if you were to say, okay, there's two, you did Always, where like the ghost of a pilot comes back and like tutors somebody else, right? Okay, so you got two fantasy movies in 6 years, but they're bookended by Empire of the Sun and Schindler's List, which are both like war epics.
He needed Hook.
Yeah. Yes. He's like, I have to go back to having fun with movies and doing it for a younger audience. Because Indiana Jones, granted, it is a big like adventure epic and it's a lot of fun to make, and you get all the production design elements and all that. It's a much different story than the Peter Pan story.
Yeah, it's very much like like I said, kind of nurturing the inner child.
Yeah.
And why not have Hook in between two of those heavy topic movies?
Yeah, and even if you were to go a couple of years after Schindler's List, because he took a break after Schindler's List, rightfully so.
Yeah.
But then comes back with Lost World, Jurassic Park, Amistad, and Saving Private Ryan. So, and like The Color Purple is 1985. Like, I really don't understand what this critic is talking. It's like, this is somebody that watched E.T. and Indiana Jones and was like, oh, Hook is like too much like these two other movies within a 10-year span. It's like, yeah, but he's done so much other work. So honestly, yeah, I feel like both of those reviews are just like complete airballs. Not really well researched either.
Or even well written, to be honest. Like,
yeah, I mean, they're pull quotes, but this idea that he doesn't care about anything else besides fantasy, when I just read you like all of those movies within a 8-year window, for a filmmaker like Spielberg to do two fantasy movies like in that span.
But even so, like, who cares if he was going through a fantasy genre stage of his filmmaking career, and it's still Spielberg? Who cares?
Yeah, this is why we read Critics Corner. It's very rare that I'll read Critics Corner and I'll just... There's times where I disagree or I think the review is bad, or I feel like the review just sort of misses the mark. And while that is the case, I also feel like this is like literally not well researched position at all.
Yeah, and I don't feel like it's worth being a review in the first place.
Yeah.
So like, you're not actually reviewing anything. You're just dissing Spielberg for doing a fantasy movie. That's not actually reviewing the film.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a longer review in there, but based on this pull quote, I'm not going to read it because, sorry, Gleiberman, this is airball, sir. Okay, but we got two 80s on the board. So we got Washington Post and Orlando Sentinel. So who do you want to close it out with?
Let's go Washington Post.
All right, the Washington Post. This is Hal Hinson. Says Spielberg and co. have finally made their Disney movie, or better yet, their film version of a theme park at Disney. It's sort of like Pirates of the Caribbean and It's a Small World rolled into one. It's a hell of a contraption and certainly one to be marveled at. It gives good ride. I think there might be a word missing from there. This movie gives good ride. Yeah, it's a little dirtier sounding than it needs to be, but I feel like that
with the thing.
I feel like that's the right take on this movie, in that it is sort of like a sprawling adventureland. That's why I said I want this to be a real place. And I think the way that the film showcases that place makes it feel tangible in a way that, you know, we don't get from a lot of other movies.
Yeah. And again, for this to have been done that early in the 90s, yes, I know it's Spielberg, but still very, very creative. Like, going back to the food fight scene, the fact that they're doing that for an extended period of time with nothing in the bowls, then having the food there, but it's so colorful and vibrant and just fun to watch because of what they're throwing around is so colorful and vibrant. Like, how can you diss any of those aesthetics?
Seems like a lot of critics let the Peter Panning in themselves get the best of them, but
they lost the joy.
Yeah. Yeah, they did, but I did not. And I feel like I liked the movie maybe more than I ever did watching it this time, because I appreciate all those smaller things a lot more than just being a kid and marveling at the sort of nature of everything. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, I did too. And I think, you know, similar, we're not just kids watching like a Peter Pan-ish story unfold. We can pick up on all the things that were there for the adults.
Yeah.
Which I think adds different layers to it.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely tell this is a movie that is like made by adults with certain things in mind, but are still making it for kids, but also for adults that maybe feel that they've lost their joy or their childhood, or have maybe
themselves.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the movie is doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing. And if you're not on board with that, that's fine. You don't have to like this movie. But I feel that saying that he's obsessed with fantasy movies and nothing else at this point in his career is such a horrid take that just, it doesn't even make sense. Like, it's not even accurate. So, yeah. Oh, well.
And it was actually very ahead of its time, if you think about it in hindsight, of those themes that he wove, you know, like were woven into the different storylines. Like I said, there wasn't much addressing those kind of things with the parents, the children, the growing up, the like losing yourself. There wasn't a lot, you know, being talked about like that.
Yeah, and I think with the context of seeing something like The Fabelmans, which is the story based on his life that he made, I think a lot of those themes make a lot more sense.
Yeah, full circle.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
Cool.
Yay.
Cool beans.
Cool beans.
Yeah. Do you want... Oh, wait. I got one more that I forgot. What is a good gateway drug movie for Hook? So for people that maybe haven't seen Hook but are tempted, what's a movie that's like close that might be able to get them seated for a 2.5 hour Peter Pan adult comedy?
Like a current movie?
Not necessarily current, but just any movie that exists.
Oh, let's see.
What you got?
Off the top of my head, and with minimal research, I would say probably, which was also a childhood favorite of mine, Rookie of the Year.
With Thomas Ian
And
Nicholas.
Yeah.
Yep. Gary
Loved him.
Busey, Daniel Stern. He was grade school alumni.
Mhm.
Laurel Hall kid.
Yeah, he was a couple years older than us.
Yeah, I don't remember. I think I maybe saw him once at school.
And then he went on to have a band. I was quite obsessed as
Yeah, as a lot of young ladies
Mhm.
were, which is why he got top billing over Gary Busey in this movie.
Yeah.
Despite being like a 13-year-old or something.
Yeah, he was also best friends with one of my friends at the time's brothers, so got to hang out with him and fangirl crush on that. But I think because you can edit that out if you want.
Nope.
I think because of he is a kid thrown into an adult world, but it's also a big adventure.
Yeah, it's like sort of the opposite of Hook in that way.
Yeah, yeah. But it's still playing to like some of the themes in Hook, I think, where similar to where, yes, Robin Williams is technically going backwards to be Peter Pan. He's being forced to kind of grow up ahead of his time and loses himself as a kid, even in that sense, until it gets to the point where it's like, okay, it's too much. Let's stop.
Yeah, and I think, at least in the case of Rookie of the Year, you've got adult characters that are like having to refine their love of baseball because this kid has been folded into the mix, like against their will. They don't believe in it, but like by interacting with him, they start to believe, I guess, so it's like deconstructing that like adulthood has to have this like hard definitive line where like childhood stops and adulthood starts, and like there can't be any bleed through anymore.
Yeah, and he's kind of like the Peter Pan of the team.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
He's got that super powered arm, that's for sure.
Yeah. And the mom was just in the movie we saw. What was it? I can't remember.
Who, Amy Morton?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what was she in?
It was one of the ones we just saw recently.
Oh, was it
It Ends With Us?
Maybe, yeah.
She's the mom. Yeah, she's her mom. Anyways, yeah, and I think him kind of having that Peter Pan, like where he's like, yeah, I'm in the big league playing with adults, but I'm still actually a kid and I want to stay a kid. And the adults are just like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Well, the movie that immediately popped to mind when I thought of that question was Tank Girl with Lori Petty, Ice-T, Naomi Watts, Malcolm McDowell, based on a comic book, if I'm not mistaken. And it's a movie that I definitely want to cover on this show at some point because it has... Look at this. You see this picture? She's got giant rocket boobs, like Madonna, right? Like the pointy cone bra, but these are rocket ships. And she's laying with like a half human kangaroo hybrid, and it's like just a zany, weird action adventure movie, but also a lot of like production design stuff that I like about it, the costuming, all that. So I think visually maybe a little bit closer. I need to watch that again. I know Seth likes that movie and he said he would do it on the show, so maybe if that counts as let's see. Oh, it is dystopian. I could do this for a dystopian December. Get Seth back on the show. Seth, if you're listening to this, if you listen to this before I reach out to you personally, make sure to remind me about Tank Girl. But other than that, yeah, we did it.
Woohoo!
Yeah, about an hour and a half. Kept it on the short side for all the people out there that are not the 2 hour plus crowd.
Like me.
Yeah, like you.
Thank
I know. Cool. Well, thank you so much for rejoining me. I hope that we can sort of carve out a blueprint for his, hers, and ours.
Yeah.
And get that out to the public here before the end of the year. I've got a lot of projects that are all cross-contaminating one another. So it is difficult, but I know you want to do TV shows. So if maybe we just start with TV shows, that's probably doable. So, but pick like a mini series or something. I think that'd be easier to do.
That's fine. There's plenty.
Yeah, I know. I know. There's a bunch. But yeah, something that's maybe like 6 to 8 episodes. I think at some point I would like to do like Trying.
Yes.
Because I love that show. And
Me
it's
too.
one of the shows that like made me believe in Apple TV as a product. So
yeah, it was their first original TV show.
Yeah, and the seasons are fairly short.
They're
so
short.
I think we could do like all 4 seasons and it's only 40 episodes. But
yeah. Or do a season per episode or something like that.
That's what we got to figure out.
All right. Well, we'll figure it out.
We will. And yeah, in the meantime, you've joined me back on the Shice podcast to do This Week at the Movies, which we still got to do this week. So maybe sometime tomorrow. We'll figure that out too.
Okay.
Like I said, cross-contamination, worlds colliding, lots of projects. But thanks everybody for listening. Thanks, babe, for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you'll be back for Jingle All the Way, right?
Sure.
You said you were going to do it for Schwartz-Temper.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize it was for this show. But yeah, let's do it. I love that movie.
It's for this show.
All right.
All right.
I got the projects confused, babe.
You do. You'll be back. Fortunately, they all take place in the same studio, which is just upstairs from the living room. So you know where to find me.
That's true.
All right, everybody. Take care.
Adios.
Thanks to Christen for coming back on the show and indulging me once again. We're trying to get back in the rhythm so that we can get our own show off the ground where it's just the two of us talking about, I have no idea what yet. But I'm glad she's on board, and I look forward to the next steps. If you made it this far, take a moment to do the listener survey and leave a review on Apple for a chance to win $50. And of course, thank you to everyone who took the time to listen to this episode. I know you have a lot of choices when it comes to podcasts, and I appreciate you spending your time with us. I hope you enjoyed the show, and if you do, please consider leaving a rating on your podcast platform of choice and telling a friend about it. And the support page is now live over at ko-fi.com. That's ko-fi.com/badmovieswelove. I'd love to hear from you, so if you have a bad movie you love or would like to be a guest on the show, you can contact me at badmovieswelove@theshice.com or at badmovieswelove on Twitter and Instagram. And that's love with an LUV on the socials. And until next time, take care, be well, and have fun however you get your movies.